Welcome back. Tail of the tape number 4 is in session. Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver from the University of Arizona, 6'4", 219 pounds, 22.0 years old. He was actually born yesterday in 2003. He just had his 22nd birthday. Background information on Tetairoa McMillan. High school to college, we had an excellent high school player, the number 4 wide receiver in the 2022 wide receiver class, teams up with his high school quarterback, Noah Fafita, and both of them played together in Anaheim, California, go to the University of Arizona together. Over his college career, he becomes one of the best college football wide receivers, and his development started even as a freshman with 81 targets, during his freshman season. He was pretty inefficient. He only had 48.1% reception percentage, so 81 targets, only ended up corralling 39 of those passes. And by the way, for those of you guys that don't know, that interview of him saying that he doesn't watch film and all that stuff, that was from his freshman season. So a lot of people are surfacing that video before the NFL draft, pretending this just happened. It happened during his freshman season. So maybe he didn't watch film his freshman year, and that's why he broke out as a sophomore and eventually as a junior as well. In 2023, he alphas 4th round pick, Jacob Cowing, who eventually went to the 49ers, who was a senior, redshirt senior at the time, and future 6th round pick of the Bengals, Tanner McLaughlin, who also was a redshirt senior at the time. And that team also had Jonah Coleman on it, who probably will be a top 5 to 8 running back in next year's class. He led the team with 130 targets as a true sophomore, 1,396 yards, 10 touchdowns, was the 11th highest graded wide receiver in the country per PFF with an 89.1 PFF receiving grade and 2.79 yards per route run. In 2024, has another great season, builds on that production with a little bit better efficiency, 15.7 yards per reception, 2.87 yards per route run, a 60% contested catch rate, more or less the same yardage with 2 less touchdowns, but in 1 less game played. When you talk about Tetairoa McMillan's prospect profile, it's also worth noting that Noah Fafita and the quarterbacks at Arizona were significantly better in his sophomore year than they were in his junior season, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But getting into the tape itself, the strengths and weaknesses, starting with strength number 1, the first thing I wrote down for Tet McMillan, the number 1 grade that he has in his prospect grade, which is in our draft guide. You can go through 65 plus prospects in this class, see their strengths, see their weaknesses, write-ups, scheme fits, ideal landing spots, all that good stuff. That is available in the Dynasty Wall Street Journal 2.0, last updated April 1st with pro day numbers, combine numbers, all that good stuff. Check that out down below in the link in the pinned comment. His biggest strength on tape is yards after catch ability. No questions asked, in my opinion. It is incredible to me how fluid of a mover Tet McMillan is for an athlete of his size. 6'4", 219 pounds. He should not move like this in space. Among wide receivers drafted day 2 or earlier since 2016 who are 6'3" or taller, only Drake London, T. Higgins, and Mike Williams posted over 20% missed tackles force rate after the catch. In this season, in 2024, he trailed only Luther Burden, who is not nearly the same size profile height-wise as Tet McMillan, forcing missed tackles after the catch. Only McMillan and T. Higgins did it on over a 14-yard average depth of target as well. So usually when you see guys who are really good after the catch, they get a lot of screen passes, they get a lot of behind the line of scrimmage stuff, not a lot of downfield targets. That was not the case with Tet McMillan, and like I said, only T. Higgins really is the other profile that we've seen be that good after the catch who wasn't really used on Mickey Mouse targets. He was making people miss, he was breaking tackles, and that is extremely, extremely impressive. A career 5.5 yards after catch per reception, which is in the 73rd percentile among wide receivers who are 6'3" or taller who've been drafted since 2016. When you get into strength number 2, this kind of goes hand in hand with strength number 1. He has great hands too. His hands are an absolute asset to his game. Some may see it as a negative that he had 24.9% of his total targets being considered contested targets, but when you watch the film, you'll see, especially this year, Noah Fafita was late on a lot of these reads, a lot of these throws, causing an open reception for Tet McMillan, who was wide open, to look like it was contested because the throw was late and the defender catches up with him. In the last 2 years, he went 35 of 64 on contested catches, 54.69%, and in 2024, he was at 60%. So you're not talking 50-50 balls, you're talking 60-40 balls, literally by the numbers. He also posted just a 5.3% drop rate with 9 drops on 260 targets the last 2 years, had 7 this year and 2 in 2023. But like I said, quarterback play wasn't as good. Does have to tighten up those drops, but his hands are damn near dominant. Not quite as dominant as Drake London's coming out, who's a similar size profile, but they are great nonetheless. I already kind of teased it, but strength number 3 is downfield ability. There's nothing worse to me in the fantasy space than getting excited about a wide receiver prospect because of their profile. I typically look at the profile first before I watch the film, who just gets a bunch of Mickey Mouse targets. That really is demoralizing, but Tet McMillan does not get Mickey Mouse targets. Of his career routes were out wide. 94.6% of his targets were not screens or behind the line of scrimmage targets, and his average depth of target was over 14 yards, and despite that, he still posted a 29% target share in his best season. Only Mike Williams did that among wide receivers who went in the first round. Not even Drake London did that. Not even T. Higgins did that, who went in the second round, but even if he went in the first round, he wouldn't have done that either. On film, he has like locomotive speed. And what I mean by that is he's not twitchy. He's not 0 to 10 yards, elite speed off the line of scrimmage. But like Mike Evans, like Drake London, they can threaten you vertically more than you would think as an opposing defender, because in addition to pretty good speed, 4-5 type of speed, they have the size and the strength to be able to fight you off as they're running full speed, those long strides, and the ball tracking ability, contested catch ability to make you pay when they do threaten you vertically. So that's what I love about Tet McMillan, is that he's not just a short, intermediate guy. He can also affect the deep part of the field, but he's not just a deep threat. He can do kind of a little bit of everything. When it comes to strengths, number 4, route running and ability to beat press man coverage, I think he has gotten a lot of shit in this category. Is he an elite route runner? No, he's not an elite route runner at this very moment, but I find it absolutely hilarious, some of the revisionist history that people are having about why Drake London can't be a comp for him because Drake London was a much better route runner. I don't know if you guys remember this. If you followed this channel, do you remember me talking about how everybody said Drake London couldn't separate coming out of college? Because I was Drake London wide receiver 1 stan in the 2022 class, and so many people decided to tell me that he couldn't separate and all he could do was make contested catches, and now it's a blasphemous comparison for Tet McMillan. He can stack DBs. He was super effective on in-breakers, on out-breakers for his size. Look at the reception perception numbers. Corners, posts, outs, digs, comebacks, etc. All elite in those marks. And he posted 59th percentile totals against man. Again, that's not an elite total, but given the size profile that you have there, that's very strong. 60th percentile against zone. Again, not elite, but very solid for a young receiver. 80th percentile against press man coverage. So Matt Harmon details in the write-up that he's not quite to the level of route runner as Drake London, and I don't disagree with that statement, but he is a more than fine route runner for a guy who's an early declare, tons of growth still left in the tank, and has a chance to become a better route runner at the next level. When Mike Evans came out of school, he was not an elite route runner. He ended up becoming a lot better as he got into the NFL with NFL coaching, NFL wide receivers coaches. So I feel really good about Tet McMillan's route running. I know a lot of people are down on it for some reason. I just simply don't get it. I think he moves well for his size. He can break off his routes. Could he be a little bit more urgent? Sure. Could he come back to the football a little bit better? Could he break off his route stems a little bit cleaner? Sure. But a lot of college wide receivers need a little bit of polish coming out of school. Strength number 5 for him is his production profile. And this is probably his biggest strength outside of the yards after catch ability, because according to the FSE prospect model, he is the 5th best prospect since 2016 per the model. Only Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., and CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase ranked higher than him. He does not fall as a league winner wide receiver prospect because he does miss a couple of things, testing being the one of them. But early declares who dominate like this, possess the size that he has, the traits to be alpha wide receiver 1s, most of the underlying numbers that you need, and are expected to go in the first round, and 10th overall is currently his expected draft capital by NFL mock draft database. This is a clean profile. This is exactly like what Drake London was in 2022. It's even actually a little bit better than Rome Odunze was last year, because Rome Odunze was not an early declare. Again, you could argue that Rome Odunze's film was better. I wouldn't really disagree with you, but more or less he's the same type of prospect as those guys. If he goes 20th overall or something, he would still rank ahead of Rome Odunze. So even if the draft capital slides a little bit, I'm still going to be all in. When you look at best season age-adjusted yards per team pass attempt, according to Scott Barrett of Fantasy Points, you can see see that Tet McMillan is 7th on that list, and all 3 of the top receivers outside of Travis Hunter are actually inside the top 7 there with Burden, with Igbuka, and McMillan. So this is a dude that produced at a young age, at a high level, with other NFL caliber competition. Like I said, Jacob Cowing, Tanner McLaughlin, all drafted players in the NFL draft, and Cowing was a high target share guy before Tet McMillan got there. Athleticism-wise, again, the size is elite. The speed for that size is very, very good as well. 89th percentile speed score, not DK Metcalf level, but he is very good in a speed capacity given his size. If you think about it this way, a guy who runs in the low 4.5s, which is reportedly what he ran. Again, some people said 4.48, some people said 4.55. 4.53 is what Math Bomb has him officially listed as running. You think about a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who is not a 4.4 guy, not a 4.3 guy. He ran in the mid 4.5s, the low 4.5s, and he can still beat you deep. He can still threaten you vertically. Now, pack on 2 inches to CeeDee Lamb and 15 pounds to CeeDee Lamb, and tell me that Tet McMillan won't be fast enough at the NFL level. Again, Lamb's a better route runner, but all that aside, this is very adequate speed for a guy of this size. We have to Frankenstein his RAS a little bit because we did not get jumps from him, but reportedly he jumps 34 inches and 10 in the vert and broad, respectively. Again, those aren't even good numbers, and he still comes out with an 8.81 unofficially RAS score. I simply just don't get why this guy is not a consensus top 10 to 15 pick in the NFL draft. Maybe it's all smoke. Maybe the Cowboys are spreading this rumor so he falls to 12. Maybe some of the teams that are in the early 20s that could use wide receivers are trying to get him to fall as well. He's got everything he needs to be a future number 1 at the next level, or at the very least, an elite number 2 alongside a guy like CeeDee Lamb. This is the thing that pisses me off most about McMillan, because a lot of people could say, oh, you know, he's not as high on some people, like some teams are not as high on Tet McMillan. My question for them would be why? What exactly doesn't he do well? Because not a lot of people can say, oh, I'm not as high on Tet McMillan, and then answer why they're not as high on Tet McMillan for things that are not backed up by the numbers. Weakness number 1 that I have 3 major weaknesses for him. He had 7 drops this year after just 2 in 2023. But again, drops come when you get a lot of targets, so it's not really that big of a deal to me. Clean up the drops, focus a little bit better, and you'll be fine. So that was weakness number 1 for me on tape. He dropped a couple easy ones. Weakness number 2, 2024 production tapered off a little bit this year, especially as an efficiency player, because we saw in 2023 he was just dominant. You wanted to see him take another step. Didn't quite do that, but like I said earlier, Noah Fafita was not nearly as good this year as he was last year. He went from 2,900 yards, 25-6 touchdown interception ratio, and an 83.9 passing grade, which were all like top 15 numbers in the country at quarterback, to 29.55 in a lot more games this year, 18-12 touchdown interception ratio, and a 73.1 passing grade. So he wasn't nearly as efficient this year. He was, dealing with stuff. I don't exactly know what was going on with Noah Fafita, but you could see he wasn't visibly the same decisive quarterback he was in 2023, and that affected Tet McMillan's production. But like I said, he had basically the same amount of yardage in one less game, and 2 less touchdowns, and the same amount of targets. So he was still just as good. He just didn't have as good of a quarterback play in 2024. Weakness number 3 is the one that I hear the most often, and a lot of people say he's not polished as a route runner. And again, I definitely think that's something he needs. More sudden out of his breaks, urgency working back to the football, stuff like that. You hear the term polish all the time, and you might not know what it means. It basically just means that if he's running a post route, some NFL scouts think he should have been tighter on his break, or some NFL scouts want to see him use more hand technique, or some NFL scouts want to see him show his hands a little bit later than he did. It's just that kind of nuanced stuff that an NFL wide receiver coach can teach him. I actually think that if he played big slot as a rookie, it would go a long way in transitioning him into the NFL to make him an outside wide receiver year 2 and beyond. If we saw him get like Michael Thomas usage, or actually what CeeDee Lamb did coming out of Oklahoma, they played him in the slot his first year, and then beyond that, he became an outside wide receiver. I think that would make a lot of sense for Tet McMillan as well. But again, I think if an NFL team like the Panthers or the Patriots drafts him to be an outside wide receiver, he's going to be just fine right from jump. So my final grade on him is 88.5. Me and Danny actually have the same exact grade on him. He is my wide receiver 2. However, that is Travis Hunter being my wide receiver 1. So if Travis Hunter plays DB full-time, Tet McMillan would be my wide receiver 1. In terms of comparisons and fits, I already talked about the strengths and the weaknesses. Drake London, Romo Dunze are the comps that the model likes. Drake London is officially my film comp for him as well. Michael Thomas, Mike Williams, maybe some other guys that you could throw out there. As far as fits go, I really, really love the Patriots fit. I don't think he'll go that high, but if they traded down or whatever the case is, he would be a good fit there. The Panthers, again, I don't know if he'll go 8th overall, but they could absolutely use him. The Cowboys and the Saints, I'm sure, would love to get him as well at 9 and 12, respectively. Even lower down the board, I'm sure it would be awesome to have him paired with Marvin Harrison in Arizona. I think it would be awesome to get him to Denver, maybe use him in that Michael Thomas role with Sean Payton there. Los Angeles Chargers could definitely use him opposite of Ladd McConkey. I would say my favorite fit is Carolina, just because I think Dave Canales would know how to deploy him because he's worked with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, DK Metcalf, a number of big wide receivers. But I do ultimately think he'll end up being a Dallas Cowboy at 12th overall. NFL mock draft database has his expected draft capital still inside the top 10, despite all this nonsense that he's falling. If you want my honest opinion, with the amount of wide receiver needy teams that we have in the NFL, and I didn't even mention like the Jets could take him at 7, the Raiders could take him at 6. I said the Saints at 9. There's a number like the 49ers, who knows, they could take him at like 11. There's a number of different teams that could use a wide receiver to me. And I just still maintain that his floor is like Dallas at 12 because there's too many wide receiver needy teams. This isn't ultimately an excellent draft across the board at offensive tackle and cornerback and edge. And there's definitely some players that could go ahead of him because if he is falling, he could slide to like 10 to 15 to 10 to 18 in the draft. But I ultimately think he will end up going top 15 at the very least, probably top 12. If you guys want to know what I'm doing with Tet McMillan in rookie drafts, obviously this could change post-draft, but for the most part right now, he is still my 102 in Superflex, 102 in one quarterback drafts, assuming we are excluding Travis Hunter. If we're including Travis Hunter and he's a full-time wide receiver, Tet McMillan would then be my 103 in Superflex and one quarterback formats. If Travis Hunter does go like 2 to the Browns and they play him full-time wide receiver like it's being rumored right now, then Hunter would go ahead of McMillan for me because I think he's just a better player, a better prospect, and will be a better receiver at the next level. The only guy that I would take over him that I have behind him, because I do think McMillan has at least fallen into, okay, he's not a clear 102 ahead of the rest of the guys. I think team-dependent situations where you might need a running back over a wide receiver could take a first-round Amari Hampton over him, or take maybe a first-round Quinshon Judkins over him, or maybe you prefer Egbuka or Burden. I wouldn't quite go that far, but I don't think it's outrageous. Maybe you needed a quarterback on that team in Superflex, and you wanted to take Cam Ward, who's probably going to go first overall, to the Titans over him. That would all make sense to me, but to me, Tet McMillan's still the 102/103, depending on what happens with Hunter. Take the discount. Last time this happened, Drake London got overthought. Everybody thought he couldn't separate and all this bullshit. And I got him at like 104 to 106, even though he was ranked as my 102 in 2022. And you guys can check the receipts on that. Go check out Drake London's tail of the tape. I was saying the same thing. Even though he was my 102 that year, sometimes he slid to 103, 104, 105, and that ended up being a great value opportunity for me. And I think it's similar this year where there's not a whole lot of consensus after Ashton Genty. Is it Cam Ward? Is it Amari Hampton? Is it Travion Henderson? Is it Quinshon Judkins? Is it Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, or Tet McMillan? What do we do with Travis Hunter? It's all over the place. Shedeur might get top 5 draft capital. There's a lot of non-consensus this year to the point that I think a lot of people are going to get McMillan potentially for a discount if he does in fact slide to like the 22nd pick of the NFL draft. So if he slides, go ahead and take the discount. I am standing firm. I've been Tet McMillan 102 if we exclude Hunter this entire offseason, and I'm not changing my tune now. He ran fast enough. He is good enough. That video of him saying he doesn't watch football is from 2022. He was a freshman in college. I don't really care. I really don't care about that video. Don't even bring it up in the comments section. I've already kind of debunked why it doesn't matter. People surfaced it like last week, even though it's 2.5 years old. So if you guys want to come down to the comments with, hey, you don't like this about Tet McMillan, that's cool. We can have a back and forth about it. But to me, I think a lot of the concerns about him are overblown. I still expect him to go high in the NFL draft. And those are my thoughts on him. So if you want to get a discount on him, go ahead and do that. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Who do you want to see next? I'm probably going to do Quinshon Judkins next or Emeka Egbuka next, but let me know down below. I might go 3-stack Ohio State and do Judkins, Henderson, and Egbuka with the next 3 that I do. Maybe I could do Cam Ward. I wasn't totally planning on doing the quarterbacks, but if you guys want to see me do Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I will definitely do that. But yeah, rookie draft guide, if you guys want it, 65-plus player profiles, all of our rookie rankings, strengths, weaknesses, comps, grades, everything that you could look for. We have write-ups, full write-ups on every single trait for the prospects that had a day 2 or grade or better. So any of the top prospects that you got to spend a high rookie pick on, there's full in-depth write-ups with numbers, analytics, and film stuff. So definitely check out the draft guide. That'll be linked down below in the pinned comment. But with that being said, peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.